If you're planning on doing a kitchen renovation, or you just want to kind of zhuzh up your kitchen, make it a little nicer, decorate it in a way that's less kitschy and a little more elevated, you are in the right spot today. We have compiled all of our best kitchen videos from the last year, and you're gonna watch them right now. It's going to take you through both renovation and decorating. You're gonna get lots of tips on how to do it well, how to make it look elevated like it was a pro coming into your home and doing it for you. I'm so excited. Please like, subscribe, comment, let us know what you think, and enjoy. The kitchen is the heart of the home, but is yours actually working for you? Let's audit your kitchen together and fix the problems. Now, here's common problems that we see when we're talking about kitchens and the inefficiency that a lot of kitchens has. We need actual work zones laid out. So you should have a cooking zone, a prep zone, a cleaning zone, and then storage, which is also known as like pantry area. In order to maximize these spaces, the first thing that we really want to do is unclutter the countertops. Now, it's easy for things to get stored on the counters, and I actually like some stuff stored on the counters. So let's use some clear jars to put in our oats and our flour and things like that that we can actually make both functional and stylish. But most of the time, like, we don't want to have all of our pots and pans on top of the counters. We don't want to have all of our bags of flour, and I say that because I have the jars for the flour and then also the bags of the flour on my kitchen counter right now. It's irritating me, so I need to fix it. And I'm gonna tell you what I do, and you can do it too. After we kind of go through and analyze, okay, what's on the counter that is not serving me, that is just making this messy and it isn't visually appealing, and it's just making me lose my counter space that I need for the prep work. So we audit all those things out, write it out, like literally list it out. We have a checklist that you can go through. It will be linked in the show notes that can help you kind of pinpoint those areas, the bottlenecks in your home and specifically in your kitchen as well. If you need help with that, go check it out. You can walk through as you're watching this video and we can do this together. So for me, it's things like I like to bake sourdough and do different things like that with flour. So I typically end up leaving my bag of flour on the counter. Now I have a space for it, but every now and then I just need to go through and clear it out, right? Like, that's the simple thing. Like, let's just put it back in the pantry where it belongs and just have like 3 minutes every morning where we're just clearing off the stuff that doesn't matter. Actually, even better, let's do it at night before we go to bed. So when we wake up to make breakfast for our family in the morning, our kitchen is ready to go. Let's go to like, what happens if you don't actually have the place for your flour to go? There's a couple different things that we can do here. If you're not going into construction and this is just a matter of organizing with what you already have, kind of find what is my pantry space going to be. Now, if you have an actual pantry, this is great. Let's use plastic bins or wire bins, things that you can actually label and put in your pantry and have zones for all of your stuff. So you're gonna have your baking section, you're gonna have your pasta section, you're gonna have cooking oils maybe, or snacks. I know we have a whole drawer dedicated to snacks in our pantry area. Okay, where am I putting things? Where am I storing things? How do I make this easy and functional? And it's gonna take some time. You're gonna have to literally take everything out of your pantry, take everything off your countertops, and buy those bins and do the work. But once it's done, it should be a system that's really easy for you to maintain. Like I said, take a few minutes, 3 to 10 minutes every night before you go to bed, and just get everything back where it belongs. You already have a bin for it. It's already labeled. You don't have to think about where it goes because you already did that hard work. Just get it put away so that it's no longer stressing you out. The things that are on your countertop that you use every day and you want to keep on your counter, like I said, I have like a glass jar with oats and a glass jar with flour and rice and cereal and some things that we use fairly often in our home. I also have a jar right next to my stove that has all of my daily spatulas and things that I like to use for cooking. And then I also have an area next to my stove that has avocado oil and salt and things that I also use cooking on a daily basis. Having those things on the counter for me are important because I I'm home, I work from home, make breakfast, lunch, and dinner here. I don't want to have to like put things away every time I am cooking for the things that I use every time that I cook. But I put them in pretty jars. I gave them specific places to be. They aren't visually unappealing to me. They have a designated area that they go, so it's easy for me to put it away when I'm done. And you'll have to kind of figure out what that is for you. Like go to Walmart, or I like Pottery Barn and Williams-Sonoma and those kind of places, but you don't have to go there. You can go to your local store and just find a cute jar that is attractive to you, that you like, that you can put your spatulas in, and it literally automatically makes like a junk drawer less cluttered, right? And it turns something that is a daily use item into decor. And so it also condenses it, so when you put it in a jar, instead of it just being strewn into a drawer, it's all upright storage, so it makes it a smaller surface that it's being used in, and it frees up your counter space. Kind of the last thing that I do when I'm thinking through like storage and organizing and where things are gonna go is, I mentioned earlier, like you need your zone. So like I have my cooking things in my cooking zone. I have my food storage in my pantry zone. How about what we use for cleaning? For me, all of my cleaning supplies are right under the sink. Then I have a prep zone. So I have all of my cutting boards and things like that right where I like to do all my prep work on the kitchen island. So there's a cabinet in my kitchen island that has all of my cutting boards and things like that. So you just have to walk through your home and figure out where those zones are for you. Again, if you want to go through this together and you want help doing this, we do have a free resource, a home audit resource that you can get, and we will link that in the show notes for you, so you can print that out and go through the checklist and figure out what your problem areas are. And then we also have another resource that you can get after that if you're needing some more help, that will help you actually figure out how to solve those problems in the problem areas. So after we solve our storage and our organizational problems, the next thing that we want to do is just make our kitchen feel fresh and new. So I'm going to go through some simple quick fixes that we can do to update your kitchen and make it feel fresh, and then I'll talk a little bit about some of the more construction type stuff that you can do. I won't go too heavy into that in this video, but one of the best quick fixes is just updating lighting, making sure that you have adequate lighting in your kitchen. I actually love putting like a little table lamp in my kitchen. When we remodeled our home, we had a switch put in by our bedroom door, so that certain plug that I knew I wanted where the lamp to go is connected to the switch. This thing in the morning, my husband gets up really early before the sun is up. He can turn on that little lamp with the switch, and it's just enough light to get him going for the day without having to turn on a bunch of bright lights in the morning. But we also use it if it happens to be a dark day, or I'm cooking late in the evening and I just need that extra bit of lighting. I can turn on the lamp and I have a lot more adequate lighting on top of my counter space in my kitchen. Even if you're not going through construction and you aren't able to connect it to a switch and all of that, typically would be thought of, but if you need the lighting, then add it. I think adding lighting, making places brighter and allowing you to just see better helps with the function and the flow of space every single time. Also, just updating your lighting, like if you have pendant lights that you just don't love, there are a million options out there that you can find, and a wide variety of price ranges, but get what you love, get something that speaks to you. It's really not that hard. You can look up on YouTube how to switch out a light fixture if that's not something you've done before. Of course, you can hire an electrician if you feel more comfortable doing it that way. But switching out your lighting is a great way to freshen up your kitchen. Changing out the hardware, all you need to do is take a tape measure. You measure from the center of the holes of your hardware. So if you have a bar, you should have 2 holes. If you have just 1 hole, then that would be a knob. If you have a bar, if there are 2 holes, you just measure from center to center, and that's going to be the size of the hardware that you can replace without having to make new holes in your cabinetry. And freshening up that lighting and freshening up the hardware are great quick fixes that you can do to give your kitchen a fresh new feel. If we're going to go into a little more on the construction side, other easy fixes are painting cabinets, putting up potentially some floating shelves if you have the space in your kitchen to add a little bit of decor, or like I have low ceilings in my home. I didn't want to have any upper cabinets, didn't want it to feel like heavy on the ceiling, and so in order to create the illusion of height and openness, I just did floating shelves as uppers in my kitchen, and I put all of my everyday plates and cups and all of that stuff up there, and I absolutely love it. I don't have to open cabinets to get to my stuff, and like I said earlier, I'm here, I work from home, so I'm here eating 3 times a day and getting plates and cups 3 times a day, if not more than that. For me, that worked really, really well. Maybe it's something like adding wallpaper or backsplash, or just something fun and giving you a little more personality to your space. That can go a very, very long way. We are going to help somebody with their personal kitchen. They reached out to me on Instagram. They sent me photos of their kitchen. They don't have a big budget to do a renovation, so we're going to organize and design their space as best that we can with mostly what they have already. Let me give you a little bit of background on this family. This is a mom that reached out to me. She has little children, a busy life. So you can see in the pictures of her existing kitchen that life is happening, and that's okay. It's going to be that way. I really wanted to help her create zones. It seems as though every part of her kitchen is sharing equal amounts of work instead of having certain parts of her kitchen working for certain things. So I talk about this other videos that I've done and in some of the resources that I have, and I will link the resources in the show notes. But we want to create clearly defined spaces. I've done some really quick AI images to help visualize what this might look like. Again, these are quick AI images. They are not going to be perfect. It's definitely maybe more polished than it will end up looking in real life, but that's okay. I did have the cabinets on the lowers painted green. That's just for fun, to give you some color, and still just notice your home has a lot of color, so I don't want to take away what brings you joy. And as we work around the room, I'll kind of tell you like where I would put things. If you can't paint the cabinets or that's not a part of the process, that's not a problem at all. The first thing that I want to do is on the wall to the right when you first walk in, there is some shelving and some kitchen items on that right side. Now I understand that this is probably because there feels like there is a lack of storage, doesn't seem to have a ton of cabinetry, and so they're utilizing open shelves wherever they can to have storage. I actually love this. I wouldn't necessarily get rid of open shelves, but what I do want to do starting on this wall is take everything that's kitchen items for now, and we're just gonna clear it out. If we need to leave the deep freezer, I understand space-wise there might not be another place to put that. But what we wanna do is take some of the backpacks and things that are next to the kitchen by the door, and we're going to now make this right side wall when you walk in mudroom type space. We're going to have a bench, we're going to have a place for shoes, we're going to have hooks for backpacks, and keep your storage up above your hooks. And if you have to have more kitchen items over there, then that's fine, but I would try to really rethink this space as kind of your entryway mudroom zone. You can have bins up above there that maybe you don't use as much. You can keep it looking neat with the bins, but let's redo this front entry side and make it your mudroom. For the kitchen itself, I think the first thing that we have to do is just really assess the things that you have, right? So the first thing I would say is let's just do some spring cleaning and really go through every single item that you have in your kitchen. And I know it sounds super overwhelming, so you can just do it in chunks. You don't have to like tackle the whole kitchen all at once. Just get rid of anything that you don't use on a consistent basis, or if it's something that you need for like special occasions or certain events, but you're not using regularly, let's get that stored in another place. The reality is that there just isn't space for everything. The clutter that is happening is going to cause more chaos and more clutter than if we can clear it out and illusion of space just by having our countertops clean and by having a more organized space. We really can give the illusion of a much bigger kitchen. Part of that comes with just saying goodbye to some things, and I know that's probably the hardest part of this whole process, and you might be thinking like, what does that have to do with design? And it's just the reality, right? So go through all your things one step at a time, one section at a time. Don't overwhelm yourself. Just really evaluate what you have, what you really need, what you don't need, and let's try to narrow down the things that we have. Then the next thing that we're gonna do is tackle this zone method, right? So we already tried to eliminate as much kitchen items from that right side wall when you walk in so that we could create a proper like mudroom drop zone for you. So let's keep your left side, which you have like a U-shaped type kitchen going on. Let's keep this more for kitchen items only. If you need to bring in another shelf now that you can utilize where your backpacks used to be, go ahead and do that. We don't have a budget for cabinets or anything like that, but if it is possible, I would recommend removing your upper cabinets and then just doing all floating shelves. Like you can buy brackets really inexpensive on Amazon, find inexpensive lumber to use. It doesn't have to be, you know, fancy wood or anything like that. I think we can really lean into like the cottage core style for this kitchen and allow it to be eclectic, allow it to not be perfectly finished. The upper cabinets that you have are small and they just don't seem like they're super functional. Not to mention that they're just kind of making the space, like your ceiling, feel lower. You already have a soffit at the top. Even in my home, and I've talked about this before, like I don't have tall ceilings. My ceilings are less than 8 feet tall. So in order to give illusion of height, I have light colored walls and I did all floating shelves as uppers. I use them for my everyday items. I don't just put pretty things on them. They are highly functional. Let's focus on just removing your upper cabinets, getting some simple brackets and adding shelves all the way around so that we can utilize that for all your plates, all your cups. So let's start with, like, right when you walk in, you have your kitchen wall is what it seems like. So excuse me if I'm a little bit wrong. I was like piecing the pictures together to try and figure out the layout. But so on your sink wall, I would keep all of your things like prep items, right? So this is gonna be a lot of where you're washing fruits and vegetables, where you're maybe doing cutting for meal prep. And so you're gonna want like your knives over there, your cutting boards over there, all of your silverware potentially you would want over on this side, strainers, all the things that you use when you're at the sink, when you're prepping your food, when you're washing your food, cutting, all of those things. So again, you can utilize nice jars to put in, you know, like any of your prep items. If you have a nice knife block, you can keep that over there. Like your strainers and stuff, you can stack them on your new open shelves. I'm gonna kind of explain this as if we're doing the open shelves. I understand if that's just not a possibility. Use these tools the best that you can with what you have already. I would still organize with these zones as much as possible. It'll just make the flow so much better, keep your life simple, make mornings and meal times so much easier. So yeah, so that's the sink. That's where you're gonna have all your prep things, your particular home. That's how it would work best. And then you move over and you have your stove and your microwave. So this is where I would probably keep plates. All your pots and pans are gonna be in this section. Your cooking utensils are gonna be in this section. Cooking oils and spices, I can see already that you have your spices over there, and that's great. You can leave it just like that. Your little spice rack is very cute. Another good thing that would help you just with organizing, it definitely seems like we have a lot of Tupperware, and I know you are in still like the baby phase with your kiddos, really young toddlers. So if we had a bin, if you don't have a designated area in your cabinetry where you can keep Tupperware and like your kids' plastic cups and plastic everything that they use when they're kids and we don't want them to break things, I would have a bin that you can put these items in so that they don't need to live on the countertops. I'll kind of get into that as we get over to your fridge area, because I think that's where a lot of your organizing is going to live. I would definitely utilize a lot of labeled bins for your home, and I know you have some. I love the jars that you have on your countertop with your, I'm not sure if it's cereal or things like that in there, but those are great. I would continue utilizing those. Any loose items that you have, we're going to put in bins and label them. We're not gonna let them kind of free flow around the kitchen, because that's just what causes the clutter. It causes mental chaos. It's really hard to just relax in spaces where there's just a lot of small items everywhere, right? Just keeping your stove area with pots and pans and your prep zone. I know we kind of have it over with your sink and when we started talking there, but it can kind of like go around and over to your stove as well. Like that corner in front of that window is gonna be utilized as your prep zone, I would imagine. Where you do most of your cutting, you already have your knives and it looks like a cutting board over there as it is. I would maybe just move the knives a little closer over towards the sink, and your cutting boards I would potentially put over by the sink. If you get rid of your upper cabinets and do floating shelves, you can raise them a little bit so that you have more space underneath, so you can like lean your cutting boards up against the wall. You absolutely do not need a backsplash or anything like that. I think if you keep that cottagecore feel but have like decorative functional items on your countertops, right? So like your spices with your spice rack, your knife block, cutting boards, your jars with some of your things in them, those are all decorative functional items, absolutely can stay on your countertops. And then all of the things that just need a home, right? Like a bunch of random things like the Tupperware, small items that just kind of float around. Those are the things that we're going to give a more specific home with a bin, labeled bin or basket. So then we're gonna move around the room and we're over on your right side now. So this is where we're gonna have this be more of like your pantry area. So you can utilize the lower cabinets on the right side, I would say probably for your pots and pans and things like that. If you're able to get rid of your upper cabinets and have shelves, I think it would be really great to maybe have any overflow of spices or oils on those shelves, herbs, things like that you can have in cute jars or just use more decoratively. That would be a great place for those things. If you're able to, and we are doing floating shelves, I would have them go all the way around over to your fridge. So you kind of already have open shelves and open shelves around your fridge right now. We're just gonna organize this, right? So you have a cabinet that you're kind of using like open shelves, but just for visual clarity, if you're able to do the open shelves, removing your upper cabinets, just bring those open shelves all the way around over to your refrigerator and then all the way to like the countertop level if you can. You can do a few shorter ones. Obviously you need to be able to open that lower cabinet there, but you could do a few shorter ones widthwise on the left side of your refrigerator. This is gonna be your pantry, right? It kind of already looks like that somewhat of what's going on, but we're gonna put everything in bins and we're gonna label them. Bins or baskets. They don't have to have lids because you wanna be able to take them out, quickly get to what you need and put it back, right? But the more that we label and organize and get all the little tiny things into bins or baskets, the less visual clutter there's gonna be, the more things are gonna have a home. The other thing that's really great about this is it only gives you a certain amount of space to fill up the baskets. It's a really great way to help limit yourself to how many things that you have, and it helps keep you with less, right? Like easy to just collect things. Something that I appreciated we did with our house is we really my kitchen does go back. Can't see the full thing because we have like a butler pantry kind of a thing behind the wall over here. We don't have any upper cabinets, so in a lot of ways we do have very minimal storage in our kitchen, but I loved that it really made me think through, what do I have, what do I really use, what do I really need? That's all I'm gonna have, that's all I'm gonna keep. I'm not gonna have excess of things that I don't need. There are things that I have that are seasonal, like I only use for larger parties, and I keep those in the basement, so I only bring them up a handful of times every year. I don't need them to be in my kitchen on a daily basis. So if there's anything like that that you can do where you can just get it out of your kitchen when you're not using it, if it's something that you only need, you know, I would say less than once a month or less, then just get it out of the kitchen. If you can, put it in another storage area. But yeah, just take all your things, have all of your like Ziploc bags can go into one basket, cereals can go into a basket or even into jars on your countertop. You can have all of your supplements into one basket. Just condense things so that instead of seeing a lot of little things all around, you're gonna have really cute baskets that you love. They don't have to be expensive. You can get them at the dollar store, you can get them on Amazon. There's a lot of different places to just get cute baskets. And then hopefully you can find ones that you can label, because that's really gonna help you find things quickly and easily and to just create that flow. So those are your zones. You're going to, again, just to walk through your space. When you first walk in on the right-hand side, that's now gonna be your mudroom space. You can utilize upper shelves if you need to for some larger kitchen storage items. If you have to, you can keep your deep freezer there, but have a little bench or a chair so that you can, and have some shoe storage, have hooks for the backpacks. racks, and then have your shelving above that. Your kitchen on the right hand side. If possible, I would recommend taking out your upper cabinets and having a couple rows of shelving, open shelving, and again, utilizing just simple brackets from your hardware store, from Amazon, and some simple wood planks. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. We're really wanting to maximize how much space you have to organize and to have storage. Your sink area is going to have your prep zone stuff. Then it's also going to kind of curve around over to your stove. All that area in between your sink and your stove is going to be all your prep zone items, anything you need to do dishes and things like that. Of course, I keep all my cleaning supplies underneath the sink for things that I need to clean in my kitchen, and then any of my other home supplies, cleaning stuff, I keep in my mudroom. If you need to keep that in another place, you absolutely can. And then you're gonna have all your pots and pans to the right side on your lower cabinets, and you can keep all of your spices and your oils and other cooking utensils and things like that either nicely on the counter, like you already have some of your cooking utensils in a jar, which is great. Just organize things with bins and jars and labels. I just, again, really think floating shelves are gonna be your best friend here, because you can take them all the way around, very inexpensive, without having to like really redo your kitchen and your cabinetry. And around your refrigerator is gonna be your pantry, kind of as it is. You can keep your larger kitchen appliances. They're small appliances, but you know, some of them are a little bit larger, so you can keep those in that area still. And then you're just gonna bin all of your supplements, all of your dry foods that you don't wanna keep in jars on the counter and things like that. You can have jars of them on the open shelves in your pantry area, but as much as you can, condense and label all of your Ziploc bags, trash bags, juices, and things like that. You can keep in bigger bins on the bottom, because those will obviously be heavier items. I think there's a lot of potential here. I really hope that the little AI images that I did are useful for you. I know obviously it doesn't show the totality of the things that you're gonna need to store. I really believe that there's a lot of potential in your space, and just because you have a smaller kitchen, utilizing organizational tools is really gonna be your best friend. Going through and you know, kind of minimalizing how much you have will be really helpful as well. You don't have to get rid of everything. I'm not saying that, you know, what people would call a minimalistic life by any means. I'm certainly not a minimalist myself. There is just some freedom to not having unnecessary items or things that you just don't use often enough to keep around. It limits the amount of choices that you have to make in a day, and us as moms make a million choices every day. We have to make a million decisions every day. Eliminating some of those decisions just by having less things is actually very freeing. Again, I just thank you so much for submitting your pictures of your kitchen. I really truly hope that this was helpful for you. I hope the visuals that we provided was helpful for you. And if you're someone watching this video and you really want help in your space, please reach out to me. I would absolutely love to continue to do these to help people their own spaces, and to help other people kind of visualize potentially what they can do in their home as well, through those that are willing to be a little bit vulnerable and submit pictures of your home to me.
If your kitchen feels done but not elevated, I'm here to fix it. There's this big difference between, like, maybe you just recently had a kitchen remodel, or you just have a nice kitchen in general, then like actually getting it to work for you. There's a big difference between having it be pretty on the surface, but then actually having the pretty things function well for you. And so through this video, we're going to go through the foundational elements of creating the function and the beauty, styling principles on combining those things, and the mistakes to avoid, so that you can have both a picture-worthy kitchen and also a highly functioning kitchen. So one thing I like to say is luxury is clarity, it's not clutter. So oftentimes what happens when we over-decorate is we just end up having a home that looks very cluttered. And in the design world, we say we want your home to feel curated, not decorated. And so that means your pieces are intentional, and that's especially important in your kitchen. There are often times where you need the kitchen to feel like an extension of your living room, right? Like most of us have open concept homes now. While we are seeing a trend going back to more separated spaces, I think it's safe to say, like generally speaking, open concept, people like to have people over and be able to cook and conversate, really have that like welcoming environment. But at the same time, that means your kitchen is highly exposed. space, right? So sometimes we end up just either, well, it's just a kitchen, it's just gonna look the way that it's gonna look and be messy, or we like over decorate it and then now our kitchen is no longer functional because it actually does need to have countertop space so that you can chop, right? One thing that I like to do when I think about foundational elements of decorating your kitchen, an important thing to think about is your lighting. So often we don't think about having lamps and things like that in our kitchen space because we think of it more of like a work zone than like a living room. But now that our kitchens are wide open to our living rooms, we need to think more seriously about like what kind of mood is happening in our kitchen. And then even for ourselves, if we're cooking like later in the evening, we don't necessarily want all these bright overhead lights on, but we still need to see. So I've started putting, and this is a trend that's been happening for a few years now, but just putting small lamps into the kitchen. If I get the ability to design the kitchen from the beginning, we can add more sconces and, lighting over island or peninsulas to help create more of a mood lighting in the kitchen and create more of a soft environment. And then putting everything on dimmers these days, like that's something I'm all for, so that we can create the level of brightness that we want to match the mood for the environment that we're creating, whether it's for a party, family gathering, but whatnot. The other thing that is really important is not to forget that your kitchen, you're still designing your space, you're still curating a feeling in your kitchen. And again, especially if it's a kitchen like mine where you walk in the front door and you see straight from the living room through the dining room into the kitchen, it has to flow, it has to be cohesive. So you don't want to forget to layer the textures the same way that you do in your living room. You want to carry that into your dining room. So think through, what are spaces in my kitchen that I can add an element, whether it's a rattan lamp. So then you're adding both your mood lighting and your texture in that one decor piece. Maybe you have some wall space that you can put some really pretty art on, or maybe it's something that's even more functional where, and I'll go into this a little bit more later, but you're adding in items on your countertop that will both be function and a texture layering decor, right? So think through that, think through the tones that are in your kitchen. You don't want to have your living room be like all neutrals and then you do some bright colors in your kitchen and then you have this open space. It's a little different if you have those spaces separated. You can have each room have a little bit more of its own personality. But if it's an open space, you want those warm colors or whatever your color palette is for your home to carry through from your living space into your kitchen. It should tell the same story. While you can have obviously different items in your living room versus what you have in your kitchen, your color palette should be very similar. And having warm tones in your kitchen helps create that environment of being welcomed and wanting to go congregate there. And instead of it being either cold, stark, or cluttered, that would push somebody out of the kitchen, not make them want to congregate there. They would be uncomfortable while they're in that space. So you want to think that through while you're in your kitchen as well. What kind of stools or counter chairs do you have at your island or your peninsula? Are they comfortable? Are they a place where someone's going to want to come sit? Do they add another texture, or do you have like hard surface on hard surface? So to clarify, hard surfaces is like stone, wood. Now wood can add more texture than stone, but these are just like glass. These are hard surfaces. So if you have a lot of hard surfaces in your kitchen, you might want to think about having a fabric for your counter stools. A lot of people get afraid of bringing fabrics in dining rooms and kitchens, especially when we have families and younger children. But there's a great fabric these days called Krypton, or even like a sunbrella fabric that's basically indestructible. So it does cost a little bit more to get those fabrics that are stain resistant, but it's so worth it to spend that little bit more to get something that's super durable and gonna give you the feeling that you want. Like, let your guests come sit at the counter and have them be comfortable for the whole hour that you're cooking, right? So those are different ways that we create a warm and inviting kitchen space that our family, our friends, everybody wants to come congregate around, and that you'll be happy in while you're cooking, even more than when you're having parties and whatnot, because you're in that space probably every day, it'll be more inviting for you to want to go in there and to cook instead of feeling overwhelmed by a cluttered kitchen. And so then the last element of doing the foundational pieces is just your proportion and visual balance. So for this, it's just a matter of, again, not over decorating. Make sure you have the counter space to work on. Make sure that you don't have every single inch of wall space covered with something. Make sure that if you're in the process of remodeling or designing a kitchen, that there's some symmetry and balance. And obviously, like, hiring a designer is great if you're going to do the construction part because they just innately know how to do that. Sometimes it's like, well, maybe you don't have a perfectly symmetrical space, but you can hang a really large light fixture off to one side, and because your hood and your range is on the other side and you feel like that corner feels too heavy, you balance it by giving the other corner something heavy to help offset that. So then the next step is just your basic styling principles. We want functional styling in our kitchen. For the most part, everything should have a purpose, but also still be beautiful. So yes, I'm going to talk about getting the glass containers to put your rice and your oats and maybe flour, sugars, have nice olive oil and avocado oil or whatever oils you use, having like really easy to use but beautiful salt and pepper shakers or grinders, other things that can bring in pretty elements. In my kitchen, I think you can see it from here, I have copper bowls, I have gold strainers, and I put up a hanging bar so that they actually are visible in my kitchen. Now, to be 100% honest, the copper bowl I never use. I don't really know why I never use it. It's totally usable, I just don't. But those gold strainers we absolutely use, but they're still pretty and just adds another textural element, another layer of warmth and color, but it's very highly functional. And because it's hanging underneath our shelf, it leaves the drawer space for other items to be stored, which is great. And another good purpose of having decor pieces that are also functional, so that especially if you have limited storage space, you can really utilize the things that you need to store on your countertop in a way that also is decorative. The other thing that is a styling principle is balancing your negative space with your purposeful objects. Again, this goes back to the whole, do I have like all of my functional decor pieces on one side of my kitchen and then the other side of my kitchen is empty? Like, think through how you can have stations around your kitchen. And if you haven't watched some of my other kitchen videos, go back and scroll through those, because I talk a lot more about kitchen zones and different ways to create a kitchen that really flows well while you're cooking. But for this, we're talking more visual, we're talking more decorative and styling in your kitchen. So you want to make sure that you don't have a corner of your kitchen that's completely empty and then another corner of your kitchen that's doing all the heavy lifting. Like all of your small appliances are in that one spot and all of your spices and stuff is in that one spot. We want to create zones throughout the kitchen so we can spread out the workload. It's also great if you have multiple people cooking in your kitchen at once, because you can have like a chop and a prep zone, and then you have your actual cooking zone. You maybe have like a baking zone, maybe you have like a coffee and drink area. So then your kitchen is doing equal duty throughout the kitchen and each spot has its own purpose. So then you think through, okay, if this is my baking zone, then your decorative items are also going to be your functional items for your baking zone. If you're thinking through, okay, this is my prep zone, so like a great thing to showcase and use as art and decor on your prep zone would be some really beautiful cutting boards, right? Use your cutting boards, let them patina, let them have character to them, but then just layer them on top of your counter so that they're not having to be stored inside a cabinet and taking up storage. And then they're adding texture and depth and art to your countertops or to your kitchen. You can also hang chopping boards as another, cutting boards is another great way to style if you have an empty wall you don't know what to do with and you want it to function. Anything that you can hang that you also use is great. Just making sure, but then the other idea is to make sure that there's some space in between the zones. So you want to make sure you still have a clear countertop to chop on. You want to make sure you still have a clear island to roll dough on or to do whatever baking you love to do. You want to have also a clear island for people to sit and be comfortable sitting there while you're cooking if you're having guests over or your kids are maybe doing homework while you're cooking. Super important to think through styling in a way that also is ultra functional for your specific needs and however you live your life. I kind of talked talked about this already in the foundational elements, but again, for styling, you just want to make sure that you're layering texture. So you want to have linens, brass, or just think about it like metals, fabric, woven things, stone, and then have them be a variety of colors. I'm going to have another video coming out that I'm going to talk about some trends in the kitchen for 2026, but something that we are seeing, and a little sneak peek of that video, is we're a lot more in like the mid-tones for our color range. So where before we used to have a ton of contrast, like white and black was like huge for years, right? Now we're seeing a little bit less contrast in things, but you still need to create depth. So even if you're gonna stay in like a mid-range of your color tones, you wanna have a darker blue paired with a little bit of a lighter blue on the opposite ends of that mid-range. So the one darker one is just on the cusp of being dark, but it's still in the mid-range. And then the lighter one is just on the cusp of being light, but it's still in that mid-range. And then layering those tones is how you add the depth and how you get the interest when you have a bunch of mid-range colors. So think about that even with all of your materials. It doesn't just have to be like in paint colors. You think about like the stone you put in your kitchen, with the hardware that you put in your kitchen, with whatever cabinet material you're using, and then even the decor that you're bringing in. So maybe you went kind of like all one note in your actual hard finishes of your kitchen, and you're decorating and you're like, oh, I really need this to just feel more inviting. Think about how I can add a little bit more darker or lighter elements to create that depth and that interest. And you can do that with the lamp, with your glass or wood containers that you're going to be storing things in. You can do it with, you know, copper bowls or any element. Think through the things that you use functionally, and then find an aesthetic way to present those and have them as your decor as well. Okay, so the final chunk of this, decorating your kitchen and having it function while also being beautiful, and that elevated kitchen that everybody wants to have, is mistakes to avoid. So again, please don't over decorate. Like I think one element, and I don't remember where I heard this from, but I know I didn't make this up, but like basically like you do all of your decorating and then just take one thing away when you're done. Like you probably have 1, 2, 3 more things than you actually need. So if you just like finish all your decorating and then take one thing away, most likely you won't over decorate. Also, just step back. Sometimes it's like the next day you want to look at it, have fresh eyes, and just be like, okay, like, is this busy? Like, what are my eyes drawing to and why? Is it a positive thing that my eye is drawing there, or is it because there's just too much going on in that section of my kitchen? Again, balance out, like have those functional decor pieces in the different zones of your kitchen, but make sure there's space in between each zone too, so that it's not just this like constant stream of stuff and then nothing really shines. Everything's just gonna feel like mess and clutter. Another mistake to avoid is like overmatching everything. So you don't want to have all the same wood tones, all the same metal tones. Again, kind of going back to where I was talking about, like even if you like things in that mid range of color, add the light and the dark. Make sure that even if it's, you know, just in the decor pieces, but like if your kitchen is naturally dark, have your decor pieces be lighter so that you can create that interest. Make sure that if you have, you know, kind of warm kitchen cabinets, maybe you balance it with a little bit of a cooler hardware. And it doesn't need to be, you know, black, but maybe do nickel. I think it's really great that nickel's coming back. I really love a polished nickel. It's a much warmer version of like a chrome, but you still get that shine, which just adds, again, another layer of visual interest. So say you have an oak wood cabinet that's, you know, a little bit rich and warm, adding that polished nickel, it's gonna have that little hint of warm, but because it's a silver tone, will create that depth and that character. So think through those things as you're decorating, and make sure that you don't overmatch everything. Don't have all the same metals, don't have all the same wood tones. Layer the wood tones. Don't be afraid to have multiple different wood species and wood tones. Generally speaking, what you want is to go from light to dark in that same type of wood tone. So like I have a lot of oak, but I also have pine and knotty alder, but everything stems from like a brown stain. So I have a light floor, and then I go all the way to like a really dark walnut stain in my knotty alder, but they're not, it's like brown, like light to dark. So if you have more reddish woods in your home, just do the reddish tones light to dark in your wood, and that's how you keep it cohesive. Even if you have different species, there's ways to use stain to pull out different colors and achieve that look. And then also, yeah, just whatever decor pieces you bring in, don't be matchy. Don't be afraid to have nickel and brass in your hardware. Don't be afraid to have black and gold in your hardware. I usually say stick to two. Like, you can totally have more if you have that eye naturally, but if you're afraid of how to do it right, just stick to two. Have your decor pieces and your lighting in brass, and all the hardware in your kitchen in a nickel, and maybe your faucets are in a nickel too. So then you're kind of having a variety of the tones, but instead of having to figure out how to do 3 and 4 different types of metals together, you at least have 2 that brings in the different visual elements. And then again, don't ignore the lighting. Like, lighting is so crucial. I have been getting more and more into planning lamps like very early on in my design. So even in our kitchen, I have the little lamp in the corner over there, and I had that plug. I didn't know what lamp I was gonna buy yet, but what I did was I had the plug linked to a switch right outside our bedroom door. My husband wakes up very early and have a really low calm level of light as he's waking up. And then I have a decor piece in my kitchen that I love. So planning, if you can, for lamps very early on is a really smart thing to do. Lamps add the texture, the decor, but also give you the layering of different types of light that you really want to create a warm and inviting space. And then also, you know, it's not impossible to have an electrician come in and do that after the fact. If you're not in the planning process of remodeling or building new, you can have an electrician come in and let them know what you're trying to achieve, and get quotes and see what you can do. Adding in like the pendant lighting, down lighting, sconces, lamps, as much different variety of lighting that you can. I obviously have overhead lighting on right now so that you can see me. I try to avoid it at all costs, especially towards the evening. It's like my least favorite type of lighting to have on in the house. I'd rather turn on all the lamps. Did have everything put on dimmers. That was really important to us. That was actually my husband's request when we were remodeling this house, and I think it's brilliant. And now I do it in all of my houses that I work on so that I can bring it down to the lowest level possible, especially like I said in the evenings when you want to start having a calm light. Think through lighting. Don't ignore it. Make sure it's planned for.
If you're designing a kitchen in 2026, this moment is everything. Trends are shifting, so let's get ahead of what's coming so that your kitchen can feel intentional, relaxed, and timeless the next 5 years. When most people go to remodel their home, they often don't think about the lead times in receiving the product that they need to put everything together. So they think as soon as they go to the contractor and they have that start date for their project, that they can just order everything that they need and it'll all just happen quickly, right? I think HGTVs kind of unfortunately created this facade for a lot of people about the ease of getting product, just how fast construction can happen, right? Thinking ahead really matters. So we have a couple months until 2026, so that's great now. I would say like some of my projects, I'm still starting design for ones that are happening like in the spring. So we're not even talking like January of 2026, but I need a solid 3 to 6 months depending on the project. Some of them are years long to really think through all the details, figure out the timeline. What are the lead times to order things? If you're getting more custom you go in your materials, most likely the longer it's going to take, especially if you're having any sort of custom furniture, custom cabinetry done. Those are going to take longer than anything that you can just buy at like a local Home Depot. Another thing I want to emphasize for this video is I've talked before a lot about make sure that you're weaving trends in with a timeless application. So we want to take the things that are trending, but apply them in a way that you're not going to get sick of in a year or two. So we don't want to take those. It's not like fashion, like fashion is so quick because, most people aren't wearing the same clothes that they wore 2-3 years ago. And if you are, you probably shouldn't be wearing the same clothes that you wore 3 years ago or more, depending on what it is. Your house is very different, right? Like we're talking tens, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars to create your home. So we don't want something that we're just gonna like dispose of like $100 item of clothing. So peaceful and timeless is really what we're going for, but I still want to talk trends because there is this shift happening. And one of the first trends that I'm going to talk about is this warm color palette. Long gone are the days of like like cold, harsh contrast. There are still people that like the ultra modern look. That's just not me, so you're in the wrong spot if that's your style. We're really seeing a lot of terracottas and creams and earthy greens and browns coming back into design, and it's coming in a way that I just love so much, because it's bringing in what I'll talk about a little bit later, but it's bringing in real natural materials and natural elements. So we're seeing this trend of the warm kitchen palettes coming through the kitchen and bath industry, through high-end cabinet lines, and through magazines like Veranda and Elle Decor. You're not gonna get away from it. You're gonna see a lot of it coming into the 2026 season. And so a really good way to weave this into your cabinet design is picking a warm wood tone for your cabinetry. Now you can do warm wood across all of your cabinets, or you can add a little bit more flavor and interest by having some warm woods paired with a cohesive painted cabinet. So, and it can be complementary. It doesn't have to be like don't try to match the paint color to the wood. But we're seeing a lot more of like mid-tone to darker wood tones coming back. The whitewashed and gray washed oak is not as prevalent anymore. You might still see that in some coastal design, but generally speaking, this more traditional, layered, detailed, patterned vibe is what is trending. And so that mid-range to darker range wood tones, and then pick a paint color that complements that. So it can be like green with a rich wood tone is really pretty. Creams and rusts with a rich wood tone is really pretty. The way that you can mix it is like having your kitchen island being a wood tone, but then also build in like a hutch or have some uppers that have that wood tone as well. So it's not just the kitchen island that has the wood tone, you're bringing that wood tone in another area of your kitchen as well. Maybe that's through like a special drink station, coffee bar. You can really want to like highlight that section, so then it will tie in well with your kitchen island. And you can flip that too. You could totally do it the other way around, having the kitchen island and the other piece painted and the rest of it in the wood tone. So one of the tips that I wanted to mention is that you really want that warmth to feel organic. So like I mentioned, like warm earth tones. You don't want it to be like like overly orange or overly red. You really want to think like soft clay, not like bright orange pumpkin. Specifically for our kitchen, we can play with those more playful tones in other areas of the home, but the kitchen, we really want to have that timeless feel. It's going to be a lot harder to redo elements of your kitchen than it is to just like repaint a library or a den or a family room. Make sure that it's a very warm, organic feeling color palette. And then again, like I had mentioned earlier, really steer away from the grays, the really bright whites, whitewashed wood, gray washed woods. We want to really bring in more of the rich like walnut tones, a mid-tone brown oak, even a red oak we are seeing more of. We just want to make sure that we pull in the browns out of the red oak more than overemphasizing the red in the oak. Okay, the second trend that we're seeing for 2026 is your hidden tech and integrated appliances. I mean, having a paneled fridge has been a thing kind of for a long time, but we're actually starting to see it in more approachable design. And by that, I mean, we're finding companies that are offering panel ready fridges at a more affordable price. Whereas before it was always like a sub-zero fridge, which is a very high-end fridge, and other items that were very luxury in design. I mean, obviously, I think if you do an integrated panel ready refrigerator, you're going to get a luxury feel, but you can just find them now at a little bit more affordable prices than we used to, which is great. I'm really excited for that's trending and that's becoming available. The other thing is like you're gonna see more of the tech being concealed than it used to be. You're gonna see more of the glass top like induction surfaces. There's even products now where you can put certain natural stone materials over the inner workings of the induction, and it actually heats the stone and you cook that way. So when it's off, you literally just looks like countertop. It's just usable countertop space. Really, truly incredible. Now, obviously, those really new technology things are very upper end as far as pricing, but we're seeing that trending. We're seeing a lot more of no hardware on your cabinetry or integrated hardware. So like my cabinetry where I have the same same wood that was used to build out the cabinetry is what we made the handles out of, and it's all integrated into the cabinet front. So you're seeing a lot more of that. I still love a good kitchen pole and kitchen hardware, so don't take that to mean that you can't use kitchen hardware. Hardware and lighting is definitely like a jewelry piece. It's like that final little glitz and glam that you get to put onto your kitchen design. But we are just seeing more and more of like the flat surface, cleaner, less busy, and a little more sleek in our kitchens. It's definitely a very European vibe, and I think there's a really cool way to really go more bold or detailed with like a mosaic tile or a really bold veining in your stone, which I'll talk a little bit more about later also, and then having the sleeker cabinetry to kind of offset how simple the cabinetry can be. The other thing is just we're seeing less of like the technology being displayed and more of like the technology is not going away, but it's just not the forefront where we used to see like these. I think for a while there was like this screen vent hood that had like the screen on the vent hood, and it was like super techie looking. It was in an HGTV home, I'm pretty sure. I never really loved that. That was way too techie for me. And I think people are kind of feeling that way right now, where like tech is taking over and technology is great, but when we're in our home, we don't necessarily want to feel overwhelmed and surrounded by that technology anymore. So because the tech isn't going away, what we're doing is we're just kind of concealing it. So the other thing that I mentioned a little bit earlier that we're starting to see, our third trend for this video, is the natural materials. And I also talk about this all the time because I am such a believer that your home is going to feel so much richer, warmer. It's going to have a story to tell. It's going to have this really inviting, luxurious feel if you're using natural materials. So, you know, I'm not against quartz. There's a lot of really great quartz products out there, and in some cases it is just a more affordable way to go, and they're making it look a little more natural than it used to, which is great. But I can't help but tell the difference between a granite and a marble and a quartzite and a quartz material. Natural veining in marble and quartzite, just it's a unpredictable movement, and there's something so artistic and beautiful about that. And so it really is, it's art. It's where you get to kind of bring in that interest into a kitchen where that sleek kind of minimal design is coming in, but then your interest is really in the natural flow and movement of the materials that you use. So using like terracotta tiles and handmade Zelish tiles and real marble and quartzite that has beautiful flow to it. And even our kitchen has a leathered granite, so it's mostly black. There's little flecks of white in it, but because it's leathered, like it has a very textural surface, and I just love that. Like I can just feel the earth almost in it, and it feels very grounding to me. And we're seeing that this movement of warm natural materials is because we have this desire to go away from the cold, the harsh, the like I said, the technology, and bring the outdoors back inside. Like we're really realizing the importance of nature in our life and the importance of the colors that we bring into our home and the mood that it causes. And our lives are so full. The world that we live in is very chaotic, and we don't want to come home and live in chaos. I just really believe that bringing natural elements into your home helps create breath of fresh air, the grounded feeling, the warmth, and it's from the earth. These elements are from the earth, so it's only natural that that's the feeling that you're gonna get when you use those materials in your home. Okay, so our fourth and final trend for 2026 that we have been seeing is, and I don't know that this is necessarily like brand new, but there's just kind of more of an emphasis on it. And I think especially like if we're going really clean and simple with most of our cabinetry, where you will see a little more thought and design is in our kitchen islands. So you're gonna see like a mix of wood and marble being brought together. You're seeing like maybe metal and stone. You're gonna have more of like a table feel a lot of times to your kitchen island. It was very common years and years ago, right? Like we think of farmhouse design, and literally the dining table was the kitchen island. Thinking of the island as like your work-life hub, especially in smaller homes, we want to utilize the island efficiently. So having a drawer for your technology, so being able to plug in your phone and laptop and iPads and those kind of things, you're wanting to think through those things, as well as maybe having a place for your books and anything else that maybe it's for your kids if they're doing their homework at the kitchen island and you like them there while you're cooking dinner, and it's just a way to integrate, the things that we have to do in life with our family time. We're just seeing a lot more of that in our kitchen trends. Really the root of that desire to have like a work-life hub on the kitchen island, we're just turning back to functionality, right? Like we want things to be pretty, we want things to feel really good, but they have to function. They have to function for our family. So it's not even so much what the island looks like, but it's also largely just how that island functions. And when we are living in a space that maybe lacks storage or lacks square footage, an island or your peninsula is a great place to have that multifunctional purpose where you can store not just kitchen things, but any sort of work items or school items that your family needs to use. And maybe you don't have a separate office or a place to put those things. So your kitchen island is a great way to do that. So be really intentional if you haven't already. I have a free home audit, which is great. You can get that and it will take you through like where the bottlenecks of your home are and some ways to fix those bottlenecks. But then also I have a really wonderful remodel resource. So you can get that and it will help you really think through, what do I use this space for? What does it need to serve? And so when you're designing your kitchen, you're really thinking through the different zones of your kitchen and what function it needs to have. Do you entertain a lot? How does your family meet in the kitchen? Do you like to cook more separated from everybody else and have more of a closed off kitchen, or do you really like to bring in everybody when you're in the kitchen and make sure that it's more open? How much storage do you need? Do you have a ton of small appliances? My renovation resource, if that's something that's of interest to you, or if you are about to do a remodel, I highly recommend getting that. It'll be so helpful for a very fractional cost. If you made it all the way to the end and watched this whole video, I'm so thankful for you. I really appreciate everyone that is a part of this community. It has been such a tremendous blessing to grow this channel, to be able to help everybody feel comfortable and excited about hosting and entertaining and just doing daily life in their homes. So again, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Also like and comment on here and share. And I just thank you so much for your continued presence on my channel.